Hey, what's up guys? Today I wanted to do something that I've been meaning to do for actually quite a while. I want to show you guys my foundation and concealer and contour, blush, powder, like basically my entire base routine, because most of the time I cut that out of my videos because I don't know how people do a full face and don't make it like a 45-minute video. I just don't know. So I usually just leave it out. And I realized that I don't have like an up-to-date version on my channel of how I do that. So I wanted to film something like that today where I just kind of walk you guys through it. No music, no fancy intro. I'll just explain to you guys what I'm doing and just show you a little bit of me putting it on my head in the front, which most people refer to as a face. That way I can just like refer you guys back to it if you would like to see that portion. If I put up a tutorial, this is pretty much how I do it every single day. So it's pretty easy to just reference it one time and not have to film it over and over again. Every couple of months I tend to like switch what type of foundation I'm wearing, but pretty much that's the only thing that really changes in my routine. Like I usually do the application the exact same way, and I've been doing it that way for a really long time. So I'm gonna just clip my hair back, and then I'm going to show you guys how I does it. How I does it. I do it, I does it. We're going to show you how I do it. Okay, before we even begin to apply makeup, we obviously have to prep the skin. Recently, I have picked up a little trick. I think the person I saw doing this was Angel at MacDaddy on Instagram, and I think he's on YouTube now. What I saw him do is apply a face oil just to the parts of your face where things get a little bit too dry. For me, that's right around the bottom of my nose and on my under eyes. So what I've been doing is using a little bit of this wild rose oil from Caress. I just put a tiny bit on my finger and then dab it underneath my eyes and around the bottom of my nose where I tend to get a little bit more dry, and then my makeup kind of catches there. And generally speaking, I just don't think it's super cute. So I just spread it in there. I like to tap it in with my finger and then just kind of let it settle while I apply my primer to the rest of my face. For primer, I have been using two different things for different areas of my face. For the perimeter of my face, for the majority of my face actually, I have been using the Marc Jacobs Coconut Primer. And then for my T-zone, I have been putting on some of the Milk Makeup Blur Stick just where I have larger pores. I always tend to use a more moisturizing primer around the perimeter of my face where I'm more dry, and then something that's a little bit pore smoothing in the center of my face where I have enlarged pores and oiliness. I just did a "The fuck is this" review of this milk stick like a week ago or 2 weeks ago now, and I really like it, so this is the one that I've been reaching for. Before this, I was using the Viper Venom one from Nip and Fab, and I actually still really like that one as well, and that one's a little bit more affordable. So if you don't want to go out and buy the Milk Blur Stick, Viper Venom Primer, Nip and Fab, also excellent. I just realized I have swatches all over my hand. Please ignore those. I just take a couple of pumps of the Marc Jacobs and put it on the back of my hand, and then spread it all over the perimeter of my face. Generally, this acts like kind of like a moisturizer, so kind of just slip, slap, dip, dap it on. Working it in with your hands like a moisturizer kind of makes it sit nicer too. Don't forget your neck. And then with the Milk Blur Stick, I just like to apply it straight from the stick in all of the center areas where I have more texture, including right on my nose and actually right between my eyebrows. I have so much skin texture right between my brows, and I don't know why. I have actually never seen that on anyone else before in my life. I've never seen anybody else with that problem, but I have giant pores right. Does anybody else have that? Shout it out below if you have giant pores between your brows, because I feel like such a weirdo. Okay, this is when I actually start to apply foundation. I actually let a few minutes pass and let my skin prep settle into my skin. I find that if I do that, it gives me a little bit of a nicer application when I start to put foundation on, which is what we're going to do now. For foundation, I have been kind of going through a liquid foundation phase lately. I was in a stick foundation phase for quite a while, but I'm back on the liquid train at the moment. As far as liquid foundation is concerned, the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation is my absolute all-time favorite. But if you are on a budget and you don't want to spend like $60 on a foundation, which I completely understand, don't get me wrong, that's a crazy amount of money, that's ridiculous. Another one that I've been really liking that's really light are the NYX Total Control drops that just came out recently. These are actually way more liquidy and light than the Armani Luminous Silk even is. I don't think the finish is quite as beautiful, but I have to say that these photograph so beautifully, especially if you're doing like close-ups, macro shots. This is really clean for photography. So I definitely recommend this too, and it's also only $12.99, and the color range is pretty damn good. And I'm going to apply the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation to my entire face using a Real Techniques sponge. I think I like these better than Beauty Blender. I know, that's crazy. I liked Beauty Blender and Beauty Blender only for so many years, but I really like the flat side of this, and it's got the right amount of squish for my personal preferences in this life. I put 2 pumps of that on the back of my hand. I dip the sponge in and I start applying my foundation using the flat side of that sponge. And then for areas where it's a little bit more tight to like get into the crevices, like right around my eyes and around my forehead area, I like to use the pointy part of the sponge, a little more product on it, and I just kind of get in there and do what you gotta do. This particular foundation shade is almost an exact perfect match for me. But regardless of how nice it matches, I actually still going with bronzer just because I think it's important to add a little bit of dimension back into your skin, because naturally your skin's not going to be one flat color over the whole face. So I just lightly bronze just to kind of add some realism back in. My bronzer of choice is the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil. This is a mini one that came in a kit and the front label wore off, but I think this is the milk chocolate one. I'm not 100% sure though. It looks like milk chocolate, like that doesn't look like dark chocolate. This must be milk chocolate. But I like to just kind of dust that around different areas of my face that might be a little bit more bronzed where I out in the sun with a Real Techniques powder brush. This bronzer is like extremely subtle, even though I'm super fair, which is why it's my go-to, because I'm not looking to like make myself look like I have a fake tan or anything. That is what summertime is for, and also what different foundation and Saint-Tropez fake tan is for. So that's not what we're here for today. Now, at this point, normally what I would do is do my eye makeup and then do my under eye concealer, but I'm actually not going to do my eye makeup on camera today, so I'm going to jump right into under eye concealer, and I'm also at the same time going to show you how I prep my eyelids, because I use my concealer for that too. So to prep my eyelids, what I like to do is make a combination of my favorite primer with a little bit of my favorite concealer. I just find that way it lasts a really long time, but it also looks very smooth and very much like the skin on the rest of my face. So if there are areas on the lid that I don't put any eyeshadow, then everything just kind of blends and it doesn't look weird. I don't have to worry about it. It already just looks like the rest of everything else. The primer that I like to use is the Kat Von D primer. This one in particular is called the High Voltage Eye Primer, and the color is very yellowish, so it's really good for canceling out veins in your eyelids, which I have a lot of. And the concealer that I'm going to use to mix with that and also to use under my eyeballs is the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, and I am in the color Light. To prep the lids, what I like to do is put a few little dots of the primer, and then I'll add a few little dots of my concealer. Then I'll grab my Beauty Blender and just blend them in over the entire lid. And I find that blending it with the Beauty Blender gives me the most even and smooth look on the lid. If I do it with a brush, for some reason, no matter what product I use, it always looks really streaky. So Beauty Blender it is. Once that's blended out, I like to set that with powder just the way I would any other part of my face. The powder that I've been using lately is the Kat Von D Lock-It Illuminating Powder, and I use the color Petal. And I just dust that over my entire lid. I think this is the creaseless concealer brush from Real Techniques, but the label rubbed off, so I'm not really sure offhand. But I just grab that brush, I just tap it in whatever is in the cap of the Kat Von D powder. I always take the sifters off of my loose powder because I like to dunk my Beauty Blender in there, and also because I just find it easier to use even if you're using a brush. So whatever's left in the lid without the sifter is usually plenty for me to put across my eyelids. And I just use that to set the entire lid. Okay, next it's time to move on to concealer for the rest of the face. Personally, I don't generally use concealer anywhere but underneath my eyes. Sometimes I'll add a little touch of it to my chin if I want to highlight there, or a little touch to my forehead if I want to highlight there. But as far as actually concealing any other part of my face, unless I have some sort of a very severe breakout, I don't find it necessary. I find that I get enough coverage just with my foundation. For underneath the eyes, I do like to give myself a little bit of a highlighting effect, but I don't like to go too many shades lighter, and to be quite honest, it's not really possible for me to go too many shades lighter than my own skin, because usually I'm about the second lightest shade in most foundations. So what I like to do is grab the Shape Tape Concealer, again in the color Light, which is about my skin tone, and I will put just almost the entire amount that I want to use underneath my eyes in that color. And then I will grab one of the lightest shades that they make. This is the color Fair Neutral, and I'll just put a couple of dots of that along the outer perimeter of where I placed that. Personally, I find that if I put those dots of the lighter color right near the bottom edge of where my concealer is going to be, that's kind of what brings out my cheekbones the most. So I'm adding some light to the inside of my face here, but I'm also highlighting the cheekbone area just a tiny bit more. And mixing those two colors together also makes it a little bit more like realistic, even though on camera right now it looks crazy bright, but you'll see once we powder it down, it'll totally settle in. And I just use the round side and the sharp edge of my beauty blender to blend right underneath my eye. Now the Shape Tape Concealer is actually so long wearing that you don't really need to set it, but I like to take a little bit of that same Petal brightening powder from Kat Von D and just dust it lightly underneath my eyes. It really gives a nice natural luminous finish to the under eye area without making it look overly heavy, and it also just kind of sets it a little bit further, so just in case you wear this for like a really long extended period of time, it makes it slightly more bulletproof than it would be otherwise. To contour, what I've been doing the most recently is a powder contour using the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. And generally what I do is I take this very, very cool toned color and I use that for the majority of the contour. If I feel like I need to warm it up a little bit, if I look like a corpse, I'll add in a little bit of this more warm color in the center. And then for the cheekbone, like the very, very back of the cheekbone here, I actually take a small eyeshadow brush and apply just a hint of that and blend it out really thoroughly to give a more deep cut to the cheekbone back toward my ear where it is naturally deeper anyway. So to apply that cool tone first, I use the Real Techniques contour brush and I knock everything down while I'm at it. And I think the trick when you're contouring is to actually apply things higher than you think you need to. The higher, the better. Because nobody wants to look like they have a cheekbone down here. You know what I mean? Literally, I just did one dip with the brush and that's how much contour I got out of it, and I don't need to go back into it at all, in my opinion. And I am going to grab a clean brush. This is the Real Techniques buffing brush, and I'm going to just gently buff the edges of that out so it looks a little more natural and blended. And I always like to remember when I'm blending my contour, if I'm at the bottom, I blend it upward to make sure that I'm not dragging any of that powder color down lower than the actual contour should be, because that's how you get droopy dog cheeks. The Too Faced bronzer did its job enough today, so I don't think I need to go in with that warm tone from the center of the palette. But to deepen up those cheekbones just a little bit, I am going to grab that darkest color, and I'm going to do that on a very small brush as far as contouring is concerned. This is the e.l.f. Flawless Concealer Brush, which is like $1 at Target, and it's awesome. And I'm just going to dip that, literally just the tip, just to see how it feels, into the darkest color very, very lightly, because that, honestly, that contour color in general is way too dark for me, so we're going to be really light-handed. And I'm just going to place that right there. Literally just right there. That's it. No more. That's all I'm going to do. Not going any further. Just that. And then I'm going to pick up the brush that we used to apply the other color and blend and blend and blend and blend until that doesn't look crazy. If you compare this side to this side, you can see that that cheekbone has more of a prominent shape now, but it's like kind of on the subtle side, like it doesn't look like overly done and crazy, so that's why I like to do that. And to contour the jaw, I still use the Shade and Light palette, and I still use that same brush, and I still use that super cool toned shade, first one in the palette. And what I like to do is just go along the jawline lightly. Yeah, it's not so light, but well, you know what I mean. And what I like to do is just go into that jawline in circular motions and blend 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 forever. And we're not quite done yet, because I like to take my contour and put it behind my jaw, between my face and my ear, and contour back there, because I find that if like you do not have a very prominent jaw and you would like it to be a little stronger looking, that gives so much more definition to the entire jaw. It's like insane. Like that little difference right there, like once I started doing that, I was like, oh shit, I have a pretty decent jawline, but it's not, it's a lie, I don't. I'm just a really good contouring trick. Now it's time for everyone's favorite, highlighting. My recent highlight obsession have been the Cover FX drops. I use the shade Moonlight, which is super, super light. If you have darker skin than me, even just a little bit darker, I don't know if I would recommend this color, but if you're very fair like myself or somebody like a shade lighter than myself, this is the shit for you. They do have like more warm toned, really beautiful shades if you have deeper skin. Highly recommend the formula, but if you are not super fair, I wouldn't go with this because it is white. It's like white. And applying this is a little bit tricky, and I feel like if you got it and you didn't know to apply it a certain way, you might be like, what the fuck, Nicole, why did you recommend this? I understand. So if you just apply it right to your face and then try to blend it in, and by the time you pick up your sponge to blend it, some of it will have already set and you're gonna have dots on your face and it's not cute. What I like to do is grab a few drops of it and put it on the back of my hand. I grab my handy dandy sponge and I basically blend it into the back of my hand just to spread it out on the sponge a little bit more, and then I start to gently dab it on my face with the sponge. Can you say, look how friggin' blinding that is? But it's not chalky on my skin and it's not crazy looking. It literally looks wet and dewy. Honestly, this gives me the dewiest, wettest, brightest highlight I've ever experienced on my skin tone, and it also lasts all day and it doesn't look chalky at all. So for me, this is like actual perfection, and it stays on all day and doesn't move, which is just I love it. Now it's time for blush. I have two blushes that I pretty much alternate between at all times and don't ever use any other blush pretty much ever. For a more warm tone blush, I use the Becca Wild Honey blush. It is one of my favorites. Some people say it's too orangey. I freaking love it. And when I'm looking for a more like almost nothing natural neutral pink blush, this is the Tarte Exposed blush. As you can see, I have used up a lot of it. However, if you are not very fair, this probably won't show up on your skin at all. Just warning you, go a shade or two deeper in one of their neutrally kind of colors like this, and you'll be much happier. But if you are fair like me and you are looking for a like almost nothing there sort of a color, this is excellent. Today I'm going to go with Wild Honey, and I'm going to apply that with a Real Techniques blush brush. And you may have noticed that I apply my blush after my highlight. I just find that it looks a little bit more natural that way. Gives more of a natural blend when you apply it that way. Some people say it gives you more of a lit from within glow. I don't really necessarily find that to be true, but I definitely think that everything looks much more evenly blended when I do it this way. Normally at some point I would have already done my eyes and lips, but I am going to be doing something separate for an Instagram video right now, so I'm going to skip that and just leave you with the skin today. But before we finish, we cannot forget the most important step. Well, I don't know if it's the most important step, but it's pretty important. Setting spray. I prefer the Urban Decay De-Slick setting spray over anything else that I've ever used. I've tried many things. This remains a favorite. The only thing that I don't love is the packaging because it gets dirty really quickly, but they just changed the packaging. So the next bottle, I won't have this problem, which makes me very happy. Basically, I just like to douse my entire face in this and hope for the best. Sometimes when I want to dry it a little faster, I wave it with this little paper fan, which I'm not sure why I have a little paper fan on my vanity. I think this came in a PR package from Tasha a long time ago. I'm not really certain, but it comes in handy. So if you got a paper fan laying around, a blow dryer would probably do a really good job. Maybe I should try that. And that is the entire skin routine that I normally do off camera when I do my tutorials. So now if you guys ever want to know, you can just come watch this video separately and you don't have to watch it every single time, and that's such a better way to do it, I think. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe so you can see all of my videos. Follow me on social media. I'm at Ms. QuinnFace on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. I will list everything I used as well as all my social media and links and all that crap down below as always, and I will see you guys in the next one.